Do you ever find yourself going back and forth between the sense of, I'm competent, I can do that, yeah, I can definitely do that, and then feeling, I'm not enough? So if you are, pay attention. So we want this sort of simple image of someone who's been through a narcissistic relationship, right? That you're a survivor, but you sort of in bad shape, right? The fallout of narcissistic abuse means that we focus on the not feeling enough, the confusion, the getting stuck in relationships that are not good for us, the blaming ourselves. Basically, we focus on this idea of a survivor sort of shrunken and self-doubting and this sort of low self-esteem version. But it's just not that simple. It's not that linear. Many, I'd say even most survivors, actually have a good handle, a good grasp of their competence, their skill sets, their strengths, what they can do. You may feel confident at something job related. You may know that you're one hell of a cook. You may know a lot about something. You may have completed a higher education. You may be really good with your hands. You can fix or build anything, whatever. And it's almost a fact that you know, yep, I'm a great nurse. I've been doing it a long time. Yeah, I know exactly how to do my job, whatever it is. But what's interesting is that coexists next to this sort of psychological hollowing out. You feel incompetent in your relationship. You feel isolated or lonely or crazy or destabilized or hurt. Some of it may be negative emotions like sadness or worry. Some of it may be you thinking, what the hell is wrong with me? And so you go back and forth. Competent, not competent, competent, incompetent, right? So you start to feel like you're living in two versions of you. Now, I've spoken about this on this channel before, that you live in these worlds of this idea of actually feeling like a normal, well enough put together person in your adult life, your job, your friends, your pet, your routine, and then you go and visit your family of origin, and it sort of feels like kryptonite, right? And now you find yourself anxious and people-pleasing, and you're that self-doubting kid again. It doesn't have to be that extreme or even require you going back to a narcissistic space again. Just getting even a passing text or even a passing memory can leave you going from a day where you were making big decisions at work and getting things done or helping people with difficult problems to feeling really small and wondering like, am I even a lovable or even a likable person? So here's the thing. Many survivors of narcissistic relationships are overachievers and go way above and beyond. The overcompensation was a way to be loved at that time. And it tends to follow, right? A person through life. Even if the narcissistic people really aren't even witnessing your life anymore, you're still doing that overcompensation. Overachieving then becomes a safety behavior. You do way more than you need to do. And then you are confident, at least ostensibly, that what you did was done correctly, maybe even done well, that you have the mastery of the topic or the job, or you have everything organized to within an inch of its life, and know that you can find anything that you need and everything's been triple checked. And only then can you relax a little bit because you may feel a little more secure in that space. Practical stuff can feel, and practical stuff we get done can feel like a place to hang our hats, because when we have to deal with the emotions, how we feel for that overcompensation, that's overwhelming. Now remember that the way narcissism works is that the other people around the narcissistic person all get infected by the narcissistic person's insecurity. And that happens sort of simplistically by the narcissistic person having to dominate and control and compete and win. So if we are small or perceived as weak, or we don't push back or speak back or clap back, then they're good with that. And if we do succeed in our lives in any way, narcissistic people will find a way to make us feel small again. They will make fun of us. They'll make fun of what we do. They'll trivialize it. They'll tell us that what we did was not that hard, that they did as much as us and more with no support, that they can get done more in one day than we do in a month, that it's easier now to do the things that we do, but they did it the real way. For a kid, this dynamic is lethal, because a child is never really going to attempt, and really can't, attempt to directly compete with a parent, and in fact may feel guilty. The child may feel guilty if they accomplish something, and the parent does insinuate some sense of competition, as though succeeding means that you can no longer fit into that family system, or alternately, that you have to succeed at almost inhuman levels, break world records, or become a child prodigy, or something way beyond the pale to even get noticed. The hyper-competence of survivors means that there's a fact there. You get to know that, like, you are good at something. But there's always this nagging voice that's just under the surface. More days than not, you may even keep it at bay. But something may come along that again triggers that sense of not enough. A competitive colleague, an invalidating boss, a petty partner, a jealous friend, and that may be enough to let the insecure voices back in. And then, of course, there is how we talk to ourselves. It's not so simple that we're able to say, I'm good at this. I'm a good person. Of course, I'm not only good at this, I'm a good person. Nope, it's, oh, I know this won't go well, or I'm prepared if this doesn't go well, or even I know how to do this, but maybe I shouldn't try this. Now, for those of you who read my book, it's that damn purple dress moment, right? Why do we do that? Safety. It's better to be in control and protect ourselves. Don't try, don't fail. Don't face the existential hole of what that means when you are in a narcissistic family system or relationship. And then we don't try, and heaven forbid we succeed, because then we would invite the wrath or the rejection of the narcissistic person because now we're better than them. It sounds like us putting ourselves down when we're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this, or maybe I can't do this. But really, it's us exerting some safety. And part of healing is to hear that voice that tries to stop us and talk it down. Say, thanks, voice. I know you want to keep me safe, but it will be okay. Sabrina Zohar and I recently had a conversation, and she said, once you face the biggest fear of any of these relationships, for example, going no contact, and nothing really terrible happens, and it's fine and life keeps going, it starts unfolding from there. Our nervous systems hold our child selves and fears that we needed to keep safe. Our adult selves, though, are now in the house, right? And they can do that for us. We will be fine without the narcissistic person and without these protective voices that criticize us. And we can instead say, I got this. Our 8-year-old selves couldn't do it, but our 38, 48, and 58-year-old selves can. It can all feel a bit dissociated, right? To feel self-possessed of your competent self, but also struggle with that sense of, I can't do this. What's wrong with me? Maybe it's my fault. I'm not enough. I'm not lovable. That self. That self often comes out at times of stress and situations that are reminders or realities, like the narcissistic person getting up in our face, that set us back. So we do possess two worlds, at least two worlds and two selves. But one thing we know is integration of all of our selves is always healthiest. So let that competent self step in and have the back of your more self-doubting self, and let that competent self run the show at those times. It isn't easy, and it can often take a while to get to a place that feels more stable and safe and validated and seen. That may mean trauma-informed therapy, techniques that you might do, breathing or anything like that to engage in to ground yourselves, validating voices in our lives, and most likely a combination of all of the above. When the competent self and the other more vulnerable parts of us don't get integrated, we can feel very buffeted by the world and by these narcissistic relationships. So bring them together. Let the competent self feel and let it be with emotion. Let that vulnerable self be cared for by you that is competent and badass. And while it sucks that we have gone through these narcissistic relationships, I am pretty sure that you are very good at whatever it is that you are very good at, because it was your only way to feel safe. You don't have to overdo it. You don't have to overachieve. And for the vast majority of survivors, your B game is more than enough. So bring those pieces together. I hope that's helpful, and thanks again.